Hello, my name is Alexis Martin, and in this video I will be talking about the new Netflix original series about the series of unfortunate events that released this month, and I will be talking about the main characters, the Baudelaire orphans, and how their self-esteem is portrayed and how different events influence their self-esteem. I would like to start off with a spoiler alert. If you have not watched the show or have not read the books and do not want any part of the story spoiled for you, I highly recommend that you pause the video or stop watching right now. But if you have seen it or read it or are just interested, feel free to continue. I also just real quick would like to clarify that I am not talking about the movie that was released in 2004. I am talking about the new TV series that was released on Netflix this month. It is a Netflix original series, so it's only viewable on Netflix. So let's get into it. So, the series of unfortunate events. This is a book series that was written by Lemony Snicket. It's technically, I believe, a children's book series, but it does have, it's not like a kiddie kind of book series. It does have some dark themes to it, but it's very sarcastic, very entertaining, and actually, this was my favorite book series as a kid, and many others. And it's a series of about 13 books, and this is the website right here. This is lemonysnicket.com. I will post a link to this website in the description below, but this has just got all brief descriptions of the books and different collections that they're in, a couple different books that aren't directly from the series but are related to it, and then there's also some tabs here about the author and just any other information pertaining to the books. Now there are 13 books in this series, but the new Netflix series only relates to the first four books, which would be the, let me scroll down here, The Bad Beginning, The Reptile Room, The Wide Window, and The Miserable Mill. This video will, in the movie series, it covers all four books, but there are 8 episodes, 2 episodes for each book. I will, however, be particularly talking about the first 2 episodes related to the first book, A Bad Beginning. So, like I said, on this website you can view the different books, and there are some links to purchase the books, but not all of them have links, so I will also provide an Amazon link that'll link you if you'd like to purchase the books or look into them. So the book series is about 3 orphans called the Baudelaire orphans, Violet, Klaus, and Sunny, and they're in the very first book. They find out that their parents have perished in a fire, their house caught on fire, and they are moved to go live with their quote-unquote closest living relative, which here you would naturally think that would mean, whoever is close to the family personally in a relationship. However, in this situation, it was whoever lived in the closest area, in the closest mileage. So what happens is that these children in each book move from different locations, different guardians, and there's this man called Count Olaf who they meet in their first book, who is only after the immense fortune that their parents left for them. And in each book he comes up with a scheme to try and get his hands on the fortune. And there's different elements. There's a secret organization and secret plots and stuff going on in the background, but for ease of listening, I will just be talking about the first book and just the basic themes of what's going on. So there's the website. So before I get into more about the book, let me just again talk about the TV series itself. So, like I mentioned, this is a show on Netflix. It's a Netflix original series, and it is 8 episodes long. Each 2 episodes pertain to each book of the first 4 books. And two of the main actors in it, which you might be most familiar with, is Neil Patrick Harris, who is very well known for his role in How I Met Your Mother as Barney. He's also just a very well-known actor as all, and he plays Count Olaf, and he's very hilarious. And then Patrick Warburton, who plays Lemony Snicket, who's the narrator of the whole events. He's also famous in some events. To me, I remember him as the voice of Kronk in The Emperor's New Groove. So these are the two big actors that you might be familiar with that that are in the series. So the first two episodes relate to the first book, The Bad Beginning. And what happens is, so the children find out about what happened to their parents, that they've died in a fire, and then a man named Mr. Poe, who works at Mortuary Money Management, a bank where their parents' will is kept, he takes them to their next relative. Now, Mr. Poe isn't the brightest bulb in the bunch, and so he's kind of easily persuaded. So Count Olaf managed to get in contact with them and kind of weasel his way into getting custody of the children. And then once they get there, he's not very kind to them. So when the children arrive at his house, the house is black, it's dark, it's covered in dirt and leaves, and is decrepit and rat infested. And the children are given a tour, and they've got one bed to sleep in for the three of them, and the man treats them terribly, Count Olaf. And there's the very first scene of them in the house, he shows them around all the different areas and is telling them all the chores that they're responsible for, and constantly throughout the entire episode, he refers to them as orphans, which they are, but with the self-esteem in place, it kind of makes them, it dehumanizes them and takes their identity away from them and makes them feel like nothing but children that have lost their parents. So in the two episodes, they're living with their new relative who's obviously just after their fortune, and so they try to make the best of it. They try to see the positives. They try to take comfort in each other's company, and try to do what they can. However, just this terrible man keeps beating them down, metaphorically, and constantly crushes their self-esteem. They even have tried to convince Mr. Poe, the man in charge of their will and in charge of making sure they find a suitable home, about him, and try to convince other people that throughout the entire series that this man is terrible and try to come after them, but most people don't believe them. One of the key aspects from the book series that you don't get to see in the first two episodes is that Count Olaf is an actor. So in the previous series, as they move from location to location, he comes up with a disguise and takes the identity of another person and then tries to weasel his way into their life. So in every single episode and scenario and book, they instantly recognize him as Count Olaf, and they keep trying to tell their guardian at the time, they try to tell Mr. Poe that this man is after them, and no one believes them, which again crushes their self-esteem. So, so going into just some more detail real quick, so when they get to the house, they're already down about their parents. They already feel miserable and just feel like the most unlucky children in the world, which already has taken a huge impact on their self-esteem. And then just to have that wrapped up with a man that is only after their fortune and treats them as insignificant humans, again, lowers their self-esteem and personal image of themselves. And then to have a man that's supposed to be in charge of their safety and protection not listen to them and be, manipulated in front of their faces as the Count Olaf lies to him about the condition of the children, again, makes them feel like that no one will listen and that no one will believe them and that their word is insignificant. So one of the scenes in the end of the first episodes that I think best shows their self-esteem is towards the end. So it's over here. If you watch it on Netflix, like I said, because it's on Netflix and for copyright reasons, I will not be showing direct clips. I can't show them on my computer. But if you have Netflix, if you go to the timestamps of about 39 minutes and 42 seconds in to about 46 minutes and 04 seconds in, there's this dinner scene. Now, I will put that down in the description so you don't need to, listen over and over and memorize it. But but in this scene, Count Olaf is given the Baudelaire children many different chores to do around the house, and one of the final ones he gives them is they are in charge of preparing dinner for them, for him and his henchmen, his acting henchmen that come over. So they do all this research, look at ingredients and go shopping, and they decide to make pasta puttanesca. And during the scene, you can see the children's faces kind of light up as they're taking this decrepit, nasty kitchen that's very ill-equipped and making this exquisite meal. And they even make comments about, mom would be proud of this homemade pasta, and dad would be thrilled with this sauce and that kind of thing. So they start feeling better. They feel like that they can accomplish things even in this bad situation. And they even make a comment about something that their father has said, is that better than nothing. So they're not in the best situation, but they're making it their home and making things work, so it's better than having nothing. So you can see in their faces their smiles and a bit of confidence, and as they go, and then they go out into the dining room where his henchmen are seated at the dinner table, and the henchmen make small comments about, the food, how it smelt really good, and that they kind of were eager to eat it. But Count Olaf made no comments. So the children, once they open the door, they're still smiling, and they've got this air of confidence and, self-assurance, and they start walking around and serving the food to the henchmen. And once they finally get over to Count Olaf, he looks at them and complains that they did not make roast beef when he never specifically stated that he wanted roast beef. So at this point, he starts insulting them and making them feel insignificant. And you can see Klaus, the son, the boy of the group, kind of losing his grip. He's the one that's kind of meant, in terms of self-identity, he might be the weakest, because Violet, the oldest, is constantly reassuring him, trying to comfort him, and he's the one that's constantly kind of looking down on everything. He's the one that's kind of making comments the whole time about, this is worse and we're in a bad situation, where Violet's trying to, look on the brighter side. But and then as Count Olaf starts insulting them and making comments about the fact that they're orphans and the fact that they were raised so, with money, is that they're brats and they can't listen. And then the henchmen kind of start chipping in because this is their boss, and they start saying things like, children need to be kept in line and they don't listen and money is corrupting and that kind of thing. Which then, as you look at the children who, when they first walked into the room, had smiles on their faces, they start kind of getting fear and they just start getting sad. So their self-esteem and emotions about themselves start plummeting, and they start kind of questioning everything they felt. And then finally, Klaus kind of snaps and starts back talking to Count Olaf, saying things, because he says, Count Olaf is like, after you do everything, clean up everything, take care of all the dishes, and then go to your room. And then he starts correcting him and saying, you've given us one bed and we don't have any money and you're treating us terribly, to the point where Count Olaf finally slaps him across the face. And at one point, too, once the two oldest children start getting out of line, he picks up their baby sister and starts raising her above the ceiling, and then they're instantly taken over of fear as they're worried that he's going to drop her. So with the slap and with their sister, they kind of start realizing that they are powerless, and every positive feeling that they were having just diminishes. And once everyone leaves the room and the orphans are left alone, Klaus makes a comment to counteract what they talked about earlier, how their situation was not better than nothing. And then Lemony Snicket afterwards kind of sums it up, just talking about, some people would say having a roof over your head is better than nothing, having a home-cooked meal is better than nothing, having a bed is better than nothing. But in their situation, it was being raised by a terrible man and treated as they were was not better than nothing. So in this scene, you can just see just a rapid, with they're introduced to the terrible situation, they try to make it better for themselves, their self-esteem and self-identity starts kind of increasing, they start feeling strong and independent, and then after this, in a matter of minutes after this scene happens, it just plummets. They're treated like trash, and they're constantly referred to as orphans, and all the henchmen and everyone's belittling them and telling them about how terrible they are, and so all that positivity plummets and disappears, and they go back to feeling helpless and just not feeling proud about themselves. So, moving on to the next episode, the episode finishes there after that scene, and then the next episode kind of picks up and goes into later plot lines involving a wedding scene in a theater and extra stuff that I'm not going to go into at this moment for time's sake. But after that incident with the dinner is when the Baudelaire children start realizing they need to do something. So they make an attempt to go talk to Mr. Poe, the guy in charge of the will, the guy in charge of, their safety and placing them in a home. And there's this scene at the beginning of that episode. It's around minute mark 11 minutes and 40 seconds in to about 14 minutes and 27 seconds in. Again, I will post that in the description. Where they go and talk to him and try to rationalize with him and talk to Mr. Poe and tell them, this man is treating us terribly. He's only after our fortune. This cannot be what our parents meant. You need to find us, we need to be taken out of there. And he refuses to listen to them. Not only that, but he takes a couple unimportant phone calls, and he just refuses to really listen to what they're saying, which makes them feel even more insignificant, that they just have no control over what's going on, and that they are just unimportant, and that no one cares, really. So, and then eventually they're just taken back. So, throughout just the series and throughout the episodes, anytime they bring up any comments about, Count Olaf or his disguises and trying to reason with people and tell them, this man's Count Olaf in disguise, this man is treating us terribly, people do not listen to them. And as that continues, just as it progresses, as every single time as they try to bring that up, it just destroys them inside. Even in the second episode when he's in Count Olaf's in his first disguise, and they start trying to reason with Mr. Poe about how the man is really Count Olaf. They come up with all these reasons, and still, it's not definitive proof. The only way that they can ever convince people that he is Count Olaf is by a tattoo on his ankle. Which, again, I'm not going to go too much into detail for time's sake. So, so, to kind of wrap things up, I've mentioned this before, I've stated this multiple times, but the series of Unfortunate Events is a great book series that I've loved ever since as a child, and the new series on Netflix, I think, is a great representation of the books. I highly recommend that you watch the show. If you've read the books, and if you haven't, it's still a very interesting storyline. And in the show, you can just see you kind of feel there's kind of the second degree. What's the word? I don't know, as you feel the show, watch the show, you just feel all the emotions that the Baudelaires feel the entire time. As you watch it, you can feel their self-esteem plummeting. You can feel their ambitions kind of fading as people try, as no one listens to what they say. So like I said in the first episode, when everything's introduced, no matter how hard they try to make everything work in their terrible house and in the terrible situation, Count Olaf constantly shoots them back down. And then in the second episode, their attempts to try and get people to realize what's going on are constantly failing as people fail to believe them. But in the end, in the end of the second episode, they do manage to foil Count Olaf's plot and to get out of that situation. But then they get thrown into a new home where he continues to try and pursue their fortune. So I highly recommend you watch the show. It's very entertaining. I do recommend, too, that you read the books, because even though the show does cover quite a bit and does represent them well, it does go very fast, and if you don't know the books, it might kind of go by, you might be a little confused, but either way, it's still a very good read. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any comments or concerns or any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. All the information, the website for the website for the books, I will post in the description. I will post a link to Amazon if you would like to buy the books. I'll also link these 2 actor profiles from IMDB.com if you are interested in reading up on the actors as well. So thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.